The Orange Bowl is going to be the Tyler Shuck Bowl. Who's he rooting for in this game? As we take a look, Oregon, Texas Tech on a crossover edition of Locked On Ducks and Locked On Red Raiders.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for a crossover edition of Locked On Ducks. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, and Locked On Red Raiders. He is the one and only Christopher Level. We'll refer to him as Chris here on the show, of course. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much, especially our everydayers, for helping make that the case. We're going to glance at this matchup. There is much to glance at as Oregon and Texas Tech play for the first time since 2023, and this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We need to get Tyler Shuck one of those split jerseys, Chris, because he, of course, was a starter at Oregon for a year, was at Texas Tech for a couple of seasons. I think that, and I'm told that Oregon does a few things with uniforms that are fun and creative, or at least they have over the years. So get him a 50-50 jersey, maybe put like a transfer portal patch right in the middle of it that's half on each side. But I'm stoked for this game. Absolutely stoked. I think this is going to be an awesome matchup. I think these are two pretty evenly matched teams. I've been bullish on Texas Tech all season long. Like, joking aside, this should be a truly great college football game.
Yeah, you were with me on that train back in the summertime, and I will just mention to everybody you did pick Utah during that regular season.
Well, you know what? Nobody's perfect.
I know, but you had them all along. I think these are two very well-rounded teams. There's not a lot of weakness on paper. Yes, if you look hard enough, you're going to find they need to do this better, or this could be a bit better. There's this injury, but there's a lot of answers on these two teams, and I think two of the more well-rounded teams left in this in the CFP. But and it's weird because typically you get to this point and you think you're going to see somebody you hadn't seen maybe ever or in a long time. They played just 2 years ago. They were supposed to play last year, but I was in Austin, Texas, and I remember Texas Tech official told me, he's like, it was the last year that the Longhorns were in the Big 12, and it's like, yeah, we're not going to play at Oregon next year. Oregon wants to play Oregon State, so we're going to kind of, we're going to go play Washington State instead. We're going to move the Oregon game way down the line. I don't even, it's like 29 or 30 or whenever that is, but yeah, a lot of actually some supposed to have been a home and home just recently. So, and Tyler Shuck started that game for Texas Tech, and Texas Tech, almost pulled it off that day, but it's a very different program now.
Yeah, and I'm sure that has to be at least in the back of the minds for the Texas Tech coaching staff is how that game in Lubbock went a couple of years ago. I'm more interested in the growth since that particular moment, because that was a good Texas Tech team. This one is obviously much better. For the Oregon fans out there that don't know anything about Texas Tech or haven't, done any sort of studying or homework, whatever you want to call it, on the Red Raiders this year, I think you put it really well, Chris. They're a very balanced team, and that's one of the reasons that I felt good about Oregon coming into this college football playoff run as they chased their first national championship game. I just don't see a lot of weaknesses, and I think there are also a lot of different ways that Oregon can win. And I talked about this going into the James Madison matchup. I feel like they could win a low-scoring game, a game that's affected by the weather. I feel like they could win with defense. I feel like they could win with their run game, with their pass game. Like, any way that the game plan from the other side is trying to pigeonhole you into and say, well, we're going to force you to do this. I feel like Oregon has just had those answers. But I feel that way about Texas Tech as well. And I think that their run game is really underrated. And I think that's going to be a big part of this particular matchup. But, Baron Morton gets a lot of attention. He's probably the biggest name offensively for Texas Tech. A lot of discussion about their defense this year. But I think it's the offensive ability to run the football that has made Texas Tech better than they have been in years past.
Yeah, and Taj Brooks was the school's all-time leading rusher. Obviously, he played against Oregon a couple years ago, but he graduated last year. What was a big-time player, is playing for the Bengals now, and that was kind of okay. What are you going to do? And part of the portal class was Quentin Joyner from USC, one of the top running backs in the portal. He was thought to be kind of the guy, and like you'll put him with some of your current players. We'll get to those guys in a second, but Quentin was thought to be the guy, and he never played a snap this year because he got hurt in August. And at the time, you think, "Uh-oh, how's this going to go?" And trying to replace Taj, the guy you bring in, to kind of largely replace Taj, and now, but Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams have been better than anybody would have ever thought. I think the offensive line, the scheme, all that stuff, but I mean, their totals together have eclipsed what Taj did a year ago, which again I wouldn't have thought. But Cam Dickey is, he went over 1,000 yards. Jacoby Williams, great change of pace back, can catch it, all those things. And Oregon's got a trio of guys too, averaging 7 yards a carry.
In that sort of range, I can pull up the exact numbers on it. Yeah, they're all over 6 yards a carry this year.
Yes. Take me through. I am curious. Okay, so let's talk about the quarterbacks in this deal.
Yeah.
So they're different stories. I mean, I think Dante Moore came from UCLA.
Yep.
And I don't even know if he will be back next year. I mean, there's a lot of chatter. He could be one of the first or second players taken in the draft. Barron is kind of why Tyler Shuck is not here anymore. They made a choice. And it was awkward at the time. Not everybody handled it well. And Barron's kind of always been injured. He's been playing the majority of this year with a hairline fracture and then one of the bones in his lower leg. So it's kind of been a what if, but he's been just good enough. But take me through the dynamic, because you've always liked Barron. I watched Moore for the first time in the whiteout game versus Penn State, and very composed, smooth, but his numbers are not like overwhelming or anything. But take me through him as a player.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing about the Oregon offense, because I think there's a parallel between what you're asking about with Dante Moore and what we were talking about with the running backs. There is nothing from an individual statistical standpoint for this season that is going to blow you away with Oregon.
Yeah.
But then you look all over the field and you go, well, wait a minute. You got a future first-round guy at quarterback. You've got two true freshmen at running back. You got an NFL guy at tight end. You have NFL caliber receivers. What's meant? And the answer is they just spread the ball around a lot. And as I mentioned earlier, like they just do whatever is required, whatever is needed, whatever is called upon for the given game, and they can do it. They can have a long time-consuming drive offensively if they want. They can pick up short yardages. They can also be explosive in the run game. They can be explosive in the pass game. They can work in the RPO. Like, they just have everything available to them. It's just a matter of whether the game plan and execution is right.
Yeah, when the all Big 12 teams came out, there was 0 Red Raiders on the first team, all Big 12 team on the offensive side. And everybody's going, what is going on? Like, how slighted can one feel? But it's exactly what you just described. There's nobody that led any category statistically at all, and yet they were, I think, their third scoring offense in the country at over 42 points a game. And so it was just, we need to run it, great. You need to throw it, great. We need to hit it underneath with the tight end and Terrence Carter, great. I mean, so very, very similar in that sense. And I'd be willing to bet you that we may be having the same conversations about the defenses too, because I know Texas Tech wasn't the only team that brought in guys from the portal. I'm curious, has any one player that they brought in done any more for their team or fixed what they thought would ail them than the Purdue safety?
That is an excellent question, and one that I'm going to answer and more when we get back. First, this episode brought to you by Omaha Steaks. The holidays are here, and whether you're hosting family, planning the perfect gift, or just trying to keep things simple and delicious, that's a good combo. Omaha Steaks is making it easier than ever. From effortless holiday entertaining to unforgettable gifts, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience straight to your door. And what makes it even better? With Omaha Steaks, you always know exactly what you're gifting. USDA certified tender steaks, premium proteins, gourmet sides, and decadent desserts that make anyone feel appreciated. The holidays are all about food at some level, because that's a way that people come together, because everybody's got to eat. Big holiday meals. If you have a foodie in your life, like me, for instance, I'm a big food guy. I don't know about Chris, but I know that I'm a big food guy, and you feel like someone would appreciate a gift like this, as I would. Omaha Steaks has got everything that you'll need, and you'll love how easy it is to gift. It shows up frozen, packed beautifully, and then it's ready to cook, and it's quality stuff. Save big on gourmet gifts and holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com, and for an extra $35 off, use the code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code COLLEGE. Check them out at omahasteaks.com. So, Chris, before I answer your question about Dylan Thieneman at safety, I just want to put a point on the offensive production that we were talking about earlier. Oregon does not have a 3,000-yard quarterback. They do not have an 800-yard rusher, or did not in the regular season, I should say, nor did they have anywhere close to a 1,000-yard receiver. Now, I didn't expect that to be the case going into the year, or I did expect that, I should say, because there's just a lot of talent all over the place. And the way they spread the ball around has been really good. And I think there have been times where guys like De'Corian Moore, when healthy, or Kenyon Sadiq at tight end haven't been utilized to their fullest extent. But overall, that's just been my biggest takeaway from watching the Oregon offense this year, is they can do kind of whatever they feel like, do it wherever they feel like they're gonna have the matchups. And I just think that Texas Tech defense is going to have to be ready for that.
Yeah, at some point at this stage, with all these teams being so good, you have to be a chameleon. Yeah, you can't win the same way every time. Sometimes special teams. It's sometimes we got to be able to run it. Sometimes we got to throw it. Sometimes whatever. But pretty fascinating. Take me through the defense now, and I want to get to I also want us to cover at some point, like these. How many refresh my memory here? How many times did Oregon lose this year?
Just once.
And I will tell you that Texas Tech lost just once, right? So I want to get to what happened in those games. Like, why did they lose? How did they lose?
Yeah.
All that stuff. I think that's important to note, because that Indiana game was just like a sneaky good game that just like, it was, 7 weeks ago, whatever. And you just kind of, Texas Tech was that way too, but I wanted to get to those because they've been rolling since, both programs. Take me through the defense.
Yeah, so you mentioned Dylan Thieneman earlier. Mm-hmm. He got my award this season for transfer of the year for the Ducks, edging out Emmanuel Prenon at offensive guard, who is an all Big Ten and All-American this season and has been Oregon's best offensive lineman. And their center, Iapani Lalaulu, or Poncho as he's known, is a third-team AP All-American this year and a finalist for the Remington Award. So I think that what Thieneman has brought to the table and why I landed on him specifically, number one, he's by and far the best safety talent that Oregon has had since Dan Lanning arrived. For whatever reason, this, that, or the other one, maybe it was, I think back to Oregon fans, some will remember this name, some won't, the Peyton Bowen recruitment. He wound up at Oklahoma, has played for the last couple of years, starting on the back end of that Sooners defense. He was going to Oregon. The papers were signed, but then the papers didn't get signed. It was a weird, it was wild and crazy. And I wonder if they didn't really think he was going to be the guy at safety, and they've just had average to below average guys in each of the first 3 years. That has changed dramatically this year. Now, Aaron Flowers, a guy they recruited and developed playing as a redshirt freshman, has been a huge part of that as well. He's been great, so is Kingston Lopa. But Dylan Thieneman is literally a scheme-changing player, because Oregon has rolled out the exact same defensive scheme that Jim Knowles first showed last year with Caleb Downs at Ohio State. And Thieneman has been so good. He's the only guy I think they feel like they could do that with, because you just have to have a really instinctual, explosive 3-level football player. And Dylan Thieneman is that sort of guy. And so they put him in this kind of rover spot in between the safeties, or the two deep defensive backs, because one's a nickel, but the two safeties and the linebackers. He kind of plays in between, and it creates a challenging look for a defense in both the pass game, because you don't really know where he's going or what his coverage assignment is, and in the run game as well, because how's an offensive lineman going to climb up to him when he's beyond the linebackers, but then he gets downhill? So,
because wasn't the knock that they were like last year just giving up too many explosives, and he was kind of thought to come in here and like, okay, we're fixing that.
Yeah, I mean, overall the defense was good last year. The safeties were just not very good, particularly in coverage. They weren't super rangy. They were solid tacklers, but they weren't super rangy or great in pass coverage. And Ohio State took advantage of that. And Thieneman, I think, has neutralized it, and Oregon's defense has gotten even better this year. I think PFF had him as their highest graded safety, actually, in all of college football, even higher than Caleb Downs. So I think what he has brought to the table this year to just roll out an entirely new defensive package because of his skill set, I think he's been the best transfer that Oregon's brought in. And then the defense as a whole, the defensive line is, these are two great, not good. And I want you to talk about Texas Tech for the Oregon fans out there that are learning about the Red Raiders for the first time. This is a great Oregon defensive line. Mateo Uyunglele is going to be an NFL draft pick. So will Amari Washington. Bear Alexander is having the best season of his career. Tatum Tuiotti's probably been Oregon's best defensive lineman this year. He leads them in TFLs and in sacks. They are deep. They are talented. They've been very productive and very good against both the run and pass this year. And then you flip on the other side, Chris, and that Texas Tech defensive line is filthy good. That's why I love them coming into this season in the Big 12.
Yeah, the front seven for this team has really just been the heartbeat. Yeah, I mean, I think Jacob Rodriguez, the middle linebacker, or actually strong side linebacker, he's won about every award that there was. He's won the Lombardi, the Butkus, a bunch of ones that I've never even heed of before. He got
Heisman votes, right?
He got Heisman votes. He was actually finished fifth in the Heisman voting. He forced more turnovers as an individual than I think 6 different Big 12 teams this season.
That's crazy. Man.
Yeah, like 7 fumble. I mean, yeah. So had several interceptions, but he would be the first to tell you that it's because he's got legit people in front of him, and I don't know what I was expecting coming into this year. First of all, like, Texas Tech was in a much different situation than Oregon. Texas Tech's defense was not good last year. They were extremely average. They could not get any pressure on the opposing quarterback. They could not create any takeaways whatsoever. And yet they were still, because the offense was so good and the defense was opportunistic at times enough, they were one win away from making it to Arlington to play in the Big 12 title game. I mean, they beat Iowa State and Arizona State during the regular season, and those are the 2 teams that played for the championship. But that's why it was getting that close. It's why we're talking about what we're talking about right now, and that they were like, defense has got to be fixed. We're not doing this anymore. So they decided to make changes. So Sheil Wood comes in from University of Houston, been a phenomenal coordinator, but it's the front. It's one of the best fronts, I think, in college football. Lee Hunter, several All-American accolades. David Bailey, same thing. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the draft. He's from Stanford. Yeah, it's funny because thank you to the folks at Stanford for making a coaching change back in March when you did.
Yeah, shout out Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck, sir. I salute you, dear Mr. Luck, because I mean, this was I don't know what all this would have looked like, but I mean, he was kind of a final piece because they thought the other edge that I'm about to talk to you about is Romello Height, who's going to be an NFL pick as well. He was going to be the guy that was going to be the pressure player and all these things, but it's like when you bookend them, it's so they rush 4, they don't blitz hardly. When they blitz, it's they're really getting, because Shield just doesn't. He hasn't had to.
No, every defensive coordinator's dream is to get pressure with 4.
Bingo. So they play a lot.
I'm a Seahawks guy, and I've now seen 2 great defenses from my beloved NFL team over the years, because this one is just Mike McDonald's great, but it's very different from the Legion of Boom back in the day. They were very simple in their concept. They just executed their assignments really well, but they didn't blitz Bobby Wagner that much. They didn't blitz KJ. Those guys were able to cover as linebackers, and they brought Cam Chancellor down into the box in that patented cover 3 under Pete Carroll, and they would just rush 4 with guys like Michael Bennett and Chris Clemens and many others over the years. But then you look at what kind of the modern era of defense is. I almost feel like Texas Tech is a bit of a throwback, because the trendy way to play defense now, and everybody's favorite term, understandably, because it can be very tough to go against, is simulated pressures, where you blitz a linebacker or a DB. You make a defense think, oh, they're going to bring 5, and then it's like, wait, they blitzed 4, and one guy was a D. Who's dropping? Oregon does that all the time. And so when we get back, I want to dive more into that, because that was a big storyline for Oregon coming out of the Indiana game, and I'm fascinated to see how that matchup plays out in this one. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Gametime app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. And if you want to go to this Orange Bowl matchup between Oregon and Texas Tech, guess what? Gametime has got the tickets you're looking for. You're going to find great deals. You will save money compared to other ticketing services for the exact same seats. And you'll know exactly what to expect, because you'll get a photo from your seat that you know, I should say, before you arrive, exactly what the view is going to be. You can do all-in pricing. There's just a lot of things that make Gametime the way to go. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Gametime. So in Oregon's one loss this year, Chris, against Indiana, Dante Moore played his worst game as an Oregon starter by far. Will Stein didn't have a very good day either, but Dante Moore was worse, because what happened in that game was Bryant Haynes, the defensive coordinator for Indiana, who should win the Broyles Award for the best coordinator in the country. I think Texas Tech's DC has got an argument for that as well. What he did in that game was mixed up the looks and just confused Dante Moore, got him completely out of rhythm to where he was not seeing open guys. And, Will Stein took a bunch of flack for what happened in that game. And certainly there's some criticism that is warranted with that, because a quarterback and an OC/quarterbacks coach have to be able to get the quarterback ready for those sorts of looks. They weren't. They were not ready. They did not attack that and respond to it well. But you can go back and watch the tape in that game, Chris. And because of the different looks and pressure schemes that Bryant Haynes brought, Will Stein had schemed some guys wide open, and Dante Moore just didn't see him. Didn't let it rip, was completely off his game. Fast forward here to this Texas Tech matchup, and it might just be as simple as David Bailey and Romello Height against Alex Harkey and Isaiah World, Oregon's 2 starting tackles. It might just be as simple as who wins between those guys.
And you know what's ironic about that? You realize Texas Tech was in on both of those offensive tackles?
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. They were. I had a list last December, and they were amongst the possibles, because I believe, did not one of them come from Texas State?
Yeah, Alex Harkey came from Texas State.
Right. Yeah, because there was but anyway, so it's just because when you're portaling, the top programs are portaling for the same caliber of player and all these things. So it's when I was watching the Penn State game, I was like, I recognize those 2 names, and I asked the person that would know, and they were like, "Yep, that they were certainly considered, and we were in the middle of that deal. I how many times was Dante Moore sacked in that game versus Indiana?
6, I believe.
Yeah, and I think a lot's been made of that.
Yep.
I think sacks can generally be overrated. It's still meaningful. It's just not the end all be all like some people used to think. So was that game solely on the offense and Moore and just kind of okay? So the end.
Yeah, I mean, I came away from that game going, Oregon's defense did everything they needed to keep you in it. I mean, the Heisman Trophy winner had 215 yards and a pick 6. You know, like that wasn't what went wrong. They were getting off the field and giving the offense a chance to break that game open over and they just could not do it. They scored 1 touchdown in their gas tempo, and that was with 5 minutes to go in the first quarter, and they never found the end zone offensively again the rest of the day. And Dante Moore threw 2 picks after that and was sacked 6 times. So when they did move the ball down the field, they stalled and had to settle for field goals. And then there was a sequence late in that first half that really swung the momentum, where it was 10-10. Oregon goes down, and with a kicker who every Oregon fan under the sun has got confidence in, Atticus Sappington, he missed a 36-yard field goal. Conditions were totally fine. It was from the left hash, and he just pulled it a little, like, well, nobody's perfect. And then Indiana, in probably the worst defensive moment of the game for the Ducks, frankly, in about 20 seconds, let the Hoosiers go down. They kicked a 56-yard field goal before the half, and you're like, wait, Oregon was going to be up 13-10, and now they're down 13, and it just sent the game going in the wrong direction. But no, I don't think that was the defense's fault whatsoever.
Another full circle moment. We mentioned that Texas Tech and Oregon played at the beginning of 2023. I want to say that the bowl game in 22, maybe it was at the end of the 23 season, at the end of the 22 season, but they played Mr. Mendoza when he was the quarterback at Cal in Shreveport in the Independence Bowl and beat him. And I'm like, again, when he shows up in Indiana, I'm like, I know this guy. I've seen him before. Yeah. The lone loss for Texas Tech this year was at Arizona State. It's when they had Sam Leavitt, who was healthy, and healthy Jordan Tyson, who I think is going to be one of the top wide receivers taken in the draft. And they did not have Baron Morton. And I think they were guilty of a few weeks going by saying, you know what, if we had a regret this year, we tried to be too simple, or try to protect Will Hammond, who was the backup that was the starter at the time in that game, and just didn't cut it loose. And you were conservative, and your defense kind of hung in there and kind of kept holding Arizona State to field goals. And you're down 19-7 and I thought, okay, that's how this game is going to end. You're just going to kind of lay an egg here, and it's just going to be like this weird bunch of field goals and just not a lot of offense. And it's 19-7 with 6 or 7 minutes left to go in the game. And then lo and behold, you score 15 points just like that. And you take the lead, and there's 2 minutes to go. And Sam Leavitt orchestrates a drive. You got them down to a 4th and 1 that they converted. And, you know, Leavitt was the best player on the field that day. And we speculated, because I know what this looks like. He came in with a bit of an ankle injury, and I think he played the first half one way, and I think he went into the locker room and he played the second half a different way. I think he got a little of that good rubbed on that ankle. And he's bouncing around, jumping up and down the crowd, and he was a lot more active in the second half, and scrambling around and just barely getting off throws. And these were arm punts that somebody was just underneath it to catch it. Happened 3 times. And anyway, it was you ended up losing 26-22. You gave up a touchdown at the very end of the game, and that was your lone loss. So was it because of Baron Morton? Because you were too conservative? But was it because your defense couldn't get a stop when they really, really needed to at the very end? And they I don't know. But And then Arizona State would go on to kind of change because Levitt got hurt, was out for the year, and Tyson ended up being hurt and all that stuff. But other than that, you won every other game you played by 20-plus points. Again, was not on my bingo card, was not something that I thought I would be saying to anybody. I just thought you'd be much better this year, but this was far different than anything I was expecting.
Yeah, and the Red Raiders' resume has been very impressive. I don't think the conference championship is the only thing that had them ahead of Oregon for a lot of the rankings. Is the fact that they dominated a lot of teams. And Oregon dominated a lot of teams as well, and I think, has more maybe high-quality wins on the resume. Though beating BYU twice, I do not turn my nose up at that and say that it wasn't any good at all. But I think it was one way or the other. These teams were always bound to meet, and this will not be the only crossover that we do. We'll dive deeper into the matchups that will define this one in the Orange Bowl, Oregon, Texas Tech. He is Chris Level of Locked On Red Raiders. I'm Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On Ducks. Appreciate everyone listening. We'll see you next time, and until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.